I'm backing up my truck, I'm gonna hook it up, loading up my boat with all my gear. I've been working hard all week, trying to make ends meet, spending time wishing I was fishing. Well, Terry Wickstrom wants to take you fishing. Gather up your gear and come along. Well, Terry Wickstrom wants to take you fishing.
This is Terry Wickstrom. Join Karen Cullum, Greg Claudio, and me as we take you to some of our favorite fishing spots from Colorado to Minnesota, the Arctic Circle to Central America and beyond, as we revisit episodes of Mountain States Fishing and Angling Adventures Television on the best of fishing with Terry Wickstrom.
We're out on Pueblo Reservoir today. It's late summer. We're going to really concentrate today on trying to show you a few tactics that you can use to catch walleyes in western reservoirs all summer long. And we may even catch some bass or some wipers because these tactics work for almost all kinds of fish. A little later on today, we'll be joined by Brad Petersen. We're going to get to fishing here real quick, and I think you'll learn some things that'll make your fishing experiences a better one. What I'd like to show you now is trolling with a bottom bouncer. That's a bottom bouncer is it's a wire with a weight on it, and you'll see the typical ones you'll see will be L-shaped. They'll actually have two wires on, and they'll have one wire coming out. This is a slip type one, but we want to show you the use of the bottom bouncer. Bottom bouncers probably account for more walleyes than all other presentations put together in western reservoirs. What we have attached to that is about a 3-foot leader with a spinner on it, and there's varieties of these spinner blades, and a 2-hook harness. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take a night crawler that I have here, and when you hook the night crawler on, you put just the tip of the night crawler on the first hook, just that little bit like that. Then you go down and you take the second hook, and you don't stretch it out all the way and hook it in. You leave a loop in there. And the reason for that is when that worm gets in the water, it's going to stretch out, and if you don't leave a loop, it'll form the worm will be kinked up and it'll spin in the water. And when you're fishing these, right now we're fishing it from the back of the boat using our gas motor. And we'll put the boat in gear, and the first thing you do is get a speed where you see the spinner is turning properly. And when you know that's turning properly and you're getting good action on your spinner, then you let the rig down to bottom. And when it gets down to bottom, you lift it up about 6 inches. And then you'll be moving along a little bit. You'll see we're using the gas motor today, a little gas motor. When I want to cover territory a little faster and I want a little bit more power to control the boat on windy days, I'll use the gas motor. Other times you'll see me using the front motor to control the boat, the electric, when I'm using bottom bouncers. And when I do that, I'm usually going a little slower, and I'm following a real tight depth contour because it's easier for me to use the electric motor to pull around. But I like it's more comfortable, and on long trolling passes, to sit in the back of the boat. Now we've gone a little ways, and that's actually come up off bottom. So what we want to do now is we want to let out more line till we get that back down, because as the boat goes, that tends to plane out behind us. So what we're trying to do is keep that down on the bottom. A good idea is to look at your line, and your line should always be out about 45 degrees. If that line is way out more than 45 degrees, then you're probably not close to bottom, and you're just dragging through the water column and you don't know where. If that line is down at about 2 straight down, you probably aren't getting your spinner to work well enough. So try to keep your line at about 45 degrees. A couple things when you're trolling with bottom bouncers that are good tips for you to remember. One is the rod you use. When I'm trolling with bottom bouncers, I don't use a big expensive graphite rod. I use more of either a composite graphite fiberglass or a fiberglass rod, and I use one typically that's 7 feet long or more. And the reason I do that, first of all, is you can see when I pull how limber that tip of the rod is. You see how it moves? And I do that on purpose because when a fish grabs that spinner on the end of a bottom bouncer, he will take that and he'll turn and it will load the rod up. And if that rod doesn't give, you'll actually pull those hooks out of his mouth before they get it. He turns and you'll just pull the hooks away and you won't get a hook set. So you don't set the hook like this when you get a fish on a bottom bouncer. You just keep moving, let the rod tighten up, and then you start reeling, maybe pull back a little bit to make sure you've got tight line. The other thing is the line I'm using. I have Berkley's Fire line on here down to the bottom bouncer. And I do that on purpose. I like that no stretch line because when I lower my weight down to bottom, I can feel the bottom, and I'll actually feel if I've got rocks or sand or mud or brush. It really transmits what's going on down there to me, so I have a much better feel. And then when the rod does bend and load up, I eventually do get a better hook set with that no stretch line. So those are a couple tips when you're fishing with bottom bouncers that can really make it more effective and help you catch more fish. Remember what I told you about keeping your line at 45 degrees? Another thing is, now see when I drop the rod back, my line goes slack because I touch bottom. Now I pick it up a few inches, so I try to keep my lure running about 6 inches or so off of bottom, or my weight rather, and that keeps the lure up just a little bit off bottom. So what I do is I continually drop back to make sure I can touch the bottom, and I watch my depth finder. If we get deeper, I let out more line. If we get shallower, I take some in, trying to maintain that 45-degree angle and my weight running just above the bottom. Now some fishermen actually like to drag bottom with their bottom bouncers, and sometimes it's an effective way. It'll kick up mud and debris and attract fish, but you tend to get snagged a lot, and I don't know that it necessarily catches more fish. Some really believe in that. I like to run mine above bottom and let the spinner do the attracting, and I don't get hung up as much that, and I still catch an awful lot of fish. And by the way, bottom bouncers are good not only for walleyes, but trout, bass, virtually everything that swims will hit a bottom bouncer rig with a spinner and a live bait behind it. So give them a try. And you can run crankbaits too. A lot of guys run bottom bouncers with Rapalas behind them. So you should make them part of your arsenal. And there's a fish. There we go. I don't think it's real big. See what we got. Can't tell what it is yet though. It's a little walleye. All right.
There you go.
All right, not a very big one, but a good example of why we troll with bottom bouncers and how effective they can be. We'll get this guy back in the water. Add bottom bouncers to the way you fish. I think you'll find you'll catch a lot more fish and have a lot of fun. Okay, I think we'll run some bottom bouncers, right? We're right in about 27 feet. We're showing some bait fish down in here.
Okay.
So what we'll do is we'll work in with bottom bouncers around this edge and see if we can't, with the electric motor, and see if we can find some walleyes. There's a flat that comes out here. There's actually two shelves, and I do a lot of jigging too. There's like a 20-foot shelf, and then it drops off into like 40, 50 feet.
Yeah.
And right in the edge of that 20-foot shelf, we're in 21 feet now. We're right up on top of that. And at that edge, I've caught a lot of nice both walleyes and smallmouth and wipers in here. So
yeah,
let's give it a try and see what happens with that.
Sounds like a good idea.
We're showing some fish. Let's see if we can catch them. We're actually running here in about 8 to 15 feet of water. I'm trying to stay somewhere close to 10 feet. We've already had several bites and 2-3 fish on. What size blade are you using, Brad? A little one?
Yeah, this is actually
another one.
a size 2.
I've got
blade.
several bites, but I haven't hooked up yet. But we've only been fishing about 10 or 15 minutes. This is a great way to locate fish.
Yeah, it is.
In fact, well, the boat's alongside of us. I'll pull it up real quick and show it to people. I have to check and see if you got my worm anyway. We're pulling is a spinner rig with a night crawler on it. We'll give you a close-up. We'll go in detail how to rig that. We got that on a bottom bouncer. When a bottom bouncer is just a wire with a weight that helps you keep it off the rocks. We're letting that down so we get on bottom. It hits bottom there, and I lift it up a few inches, and then the plane's kind of behind the boat, and I'll let it down again. Now I lift it up, and I'm running it just a few inches off bottom, and I adjust the depth as the bottom changes. And sometimes I'll run this from my back motor, and we can cover water a little faster. But because we're trying to follow a real definite contour, there's a flat that comes out and drops out. We're trying to fish the edge of it. It's a little easier to follow that with my electric. So we're running up there. We need to go just fast enough to keep that spinner blade moving. And work through here. We cover this and see if there's active fish. We may continue to fish this way, or we may stop and jig them if we find a lot of active fish here. But it's a great way to locate fish and cover water. And probably, I think more walleyes are caught in western waters on bottom bouncers and spinner rigs than probably everything else put together.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Oh, there's a bite, Terry.
All right. Man, this is fun. I tell you what.
Yeah, it is. Oh, this
Well,
is a little
better
nicer.
fish. Do you need the net? There's a
Oh,
little
I
net
think I
by-
can handle this one.
Okay. Maybe.
Yeah.
I
Well, there
mean,
you go.
you know, they're not huge fish, but you can just come and catch so many of them. It's so much fun.
Yeah. You know, this one's probably in the 16-inch range. That's a nice fighting fish.
I'll tell you what, back in Minnesota, people kill for a stringer of those.
Oh, I know.
Most people tend to set the hook with a crawler harness and they pull it away too quick, and that's when they lose the fish. I tell you, they're sure concentrated in here.
Yeah, they seem to be in little pods, but each time we come through, the pod's in just a little bit different
There we go.
spot.
Ooh, that feels like it's better.
I missed one there.
Ooh, this might be a better fish. Let's see what it looks like. Well, every time we come through there,
Yeah, that one.
oh yeah. Yeah, well, it's not huge, but it's, well, I tell you, this is fun. We can't
Yeah.
come through that area without catching fish.
Do you need another worm there?
Yeah, I will.
Yeah, I
at
missed
him.
one right there too, Terry.
We may want to stop and jig that. He actually broke the hook off my worm harness. I'm gonna have to change, get re-rigged. And that's another thing too. There's typically 2 hooks on these, and we'll show you that up close later. And most of your bites will come on the front hook. But there we go. Let's take a good look at that. That's probably a 17-inch walleye. This one's a little skinny. But boy, it's fun. We're just catching them. What have we caught? About a dozen fish already?
Yeah, you know, we've caught, 10 to a dozen, and I know for a fact we haven't been out here for an hour.
There's a point here that has a little different bottom and has some rocks and some weeds jutting out. In fact, if you look over here, you'll see that there's a sandy area, and then there's this rocks jutting out, and it forms a little point where the weed comes out. And we've caught 1 or 2 fish every time we've come over it. I think a little later on we may stop and jig this area because the fish really do seem to be concentrated on it. And it's been a real good area, so I wouldn't be surprised if we don't hook up. We've been through it a couple times. We've probably caught 6 fish already just coming over this one little area. If we catch fish going across it this time, we may stop and jig them.
That'd be a good idea.
But here's something else too. You can look out here. We've got other people using the water. We've got some jet skis out over here to my right. We've got the swim beach over here just ahead of us loaded with people. We've got boats around us. Now this is an area that's fairly popular. A little later on we're going to go to some areas further back in the lake that won't have as many boats on them. But we're catching fish right here. I mean, don't be afraid to go in just because there's some boating activity, because these lakes do get a good amount of boating activity, and the fish are accustomed to it. It really doesn't spook them off the way you think.
Now, sometimes I even think that the boating activity on real calm days helps increase the fish activity. It creates a little bit of wave action and maybe even a little mud line that the fish can go in and utilize.
That's right. I mean, there's times when getting your boat in or making too much noise will spook fish, but in areas where they're used to a lot of boat traffic, they kind of get accustomed to it. It's like living next door to the airport. You get used to the planes going over. Well, the fish get conditioned to that too.
There's one, Terry.
Oh, good. It's about the same size, or?
Yeah, about.
I tell you what, we've been just catching numbers of these fish. It's so much fun.
Yeah, that's another good fish right there.
Oh yeah. What color blade are you using?
I switched over to a chartreuse and orange Indiana blade. That white blade slowed down just a little bit.
That's it. Here's another one. There we go. Well, I got one here while you were taking that one off. Here we go. Oh, a little head shake on this one. Of course, they've been fooling me. I got this fire line on my bottom bouncer reels, and
Yeah.
they shake their head, and even the little fish feel it's smaller than the other ones, but it felt like it had a big head shake to it.
Boy, this guy's hooked
You need the pliers?
pretty good.
Let me try to get this one out.
There, I got him out.
I want to show
There he
something.
goes.
I don't know if the camera can zoom in from there or not, but if you look at this crawler harness, he's barely hooked in the lip, but he was hooked on the front hook. There's 2 hooks on this. We'll show you that later. But most of the time they attack that blade and they do get caught in the front hook. Look at that.
You know what, Terry? We had a couple fish right there. We may want to stop and try and jig fish this, or maybe pitch a little slip bobbers the way the wind's blowing in here.
That's a good idea. Let's try that. We're going to try a little different presentation here. Why don't you go take a look at these messages? When you get back, we're going to be kind of in a more stationary location. We're going to try to fish these, go after these fish that are concentrated right in this area. Every time we've come through here with our bottom bouncers, we've got a double, 2 fish on.
Yeah.
So we're going to stay here and just try to fish them with some other means. We'll be right back. What we've done, I just missed a fish here, but what we've done, we've been working this area with bottom bouncers and spinners. We're catching just numbers of fish. We seem to get most of the hits in a couple areas where they seem to be concentrated. So we switched over to jigs. I've got a little chartreuse jig with about 3/8, not even an 1/8 to a 1/4 ounce head on here. And what we're going to do is try to keep the boat more stationary and stay on those fish instead of just making passes through them. Now we have caught a number of fish bottom bouncing, and that would be, we could keep catching them like that. But sometimes when fish are concentrated, you're better off to go to a presentation like a jig or a slip bobber where you can cover those concentrated fish. I just lost a fish, so I've got a little bait on here, but we're going to be working this area right here.
There's a few fish on the depth finder right below the boat, Terry.
Yeah, well, this is the area kind of where we were catching. That's why we stopped and went over to the jig, so we could kind of just stay in this
There's
area.
one.
Sure. Right away, you know, it's my show. You could have let me catch the first fish on the jig. Well, that's a better fish.
Yeah, it is. That one's probably a 17-incher.
You need some help, you got him.
Oh, I got it.
A little bit of rain coming down, but it actually feels good.
Yeah, it does.
It won't last long, but a little cloud going over, a few drops. You know what? This actually, man, what a great day. I mean, it's the middle of July. It's been like in 90 to 100 degrees coming into today.
Yeah, I bet you that fish would be close to 18 inches.
Oh, yeah. That's a nice walleye.
Are you wanting to keep some for dinner?
Nah, we're going to let him go today. I just love catching them. Although they are great to eat. The area we stopped to work here, one of the reasons we stopped to work it was we were catching a lot of fish in this area. But if I can get you to look up over here, you'll see that it goes from sand to some rock rubble and a little point with some bushes coming out, and then back to sand again. A lot of times an area where you get a transition in the bottom like that means there'll also be a depth change out in the water, and that'll tend to concentrate the fish. And every time we trolled through here with bottom bouncers, we virtually caught 2 fish. So we've stopped and we're just working this area with jigs. I love to fish with jigs. It's my favorite way to fish. There we go. Oh, I missed him. And I got to quit talking and fish more. He's back. There we go. Oh, I love this.
Is it a good one, Terry?
No, it's a little one, but he's on cue. We wanted to get on camera. We'll get him on here. Get him back in. We're just catching tons of these little walleyes. They're just... Oh.
There's one.
All right. Good job. You're going to have to land it yourself because with this wind, I can't let go of the motor. It'll blow us around.
That's okay.
Is it very big?
Oh, no, just another one of those nice walleyes, about 16 inches.
Good.
Another nice, pretty fish there.
Let's see him. Oh yeah, that's fatter than the other. That one looks a little healthier.
Yeah, he does.
Well, you know, Brad, this weather's starting to get a little worse. I think we might have to call it a day. We hope all of you had fun joining us on Pueblo Reservoir today. I think we're going to wind it up. We've got a rainstorm, another rainstorm blowing in.
Yeah, get in before we get real wet.
Yeah, and we're going to get off the lake, but it's been a great day. We caught a lot of fish. We caught walleyes and smallmouth in a nice big spot. We just caught numbers and numbers of walleyes, and it's been a great time. And I hope you learned something about fishing some of these western reservoirs like Pueblo and how much fun you can have. Brad, thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, nice day. Thanks for having me, Terry.
And thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next week on Mama's Face Fishing. We're getting out of here.